The Macabre History of the Hollingsworth Clan, a Sinister Tale. Prologue. The Forgotten Manuscript. In the dusty archives of the Wickham County Historical Society, hidden behind worm-eaten ledgers and obsolete tax rolls, lay an ancient, leather-bound volume. Its cracked spine bore a single word, barely legible: Hollingsworth. Most who stumbled across it quickly averted their gaze, for an uneasy dread seemed to seep from its pages. Yet for those brave, or foolish, enough to open it, the book unveiled a tale of madness, ambition, betrayal, and blood, the dark history of the Hollingsworth clan. And it began, as many such tales do, with a cursed legacy. Chapter 1. The Arrival at Thornfield Hall. In 1817, young Jonathan Hollingsworth, the last surviving heir of a once prominent family, journeyed from London to claim his inheritance, Thornfield Hall, a sprawling manor perched on the cliffs overlooking the grey and storm-tossed North Sea. Though the mansion had stood silent for decades, the villagers of nearby Wickham spoke of strange lights flickering in its windows at night and an oppressive mist that seemed to gather only around its walls. The coachman who drove Jonathan refused to set foot on the grounds, leaving him at the rusted iron gates. Jonathan entered the great hall, its air thick with the must of neglect. A grand staircase wound upward like the spine of some slumbering beast, while portraits of grim-faced ancestors gazed down with lifeless eyes. The silence was so absolute that the echo of Jonathan's own footsteps seemed to mock him. In the library, Jonathan found a letter addressed to him, sealed with the family crest, a raven clutching a bloodied dagger. Greater than to Jonathan Hollingsworth. You return to a house that remembers. Tread carefully, lest you awaken what sleeps. E.H. The letter bore no date. Jonathan did not yet know who E.H. was, nor what horrors had driven the last of his kin to leave Thornfield Hall to rot. Chapter 2. The Portrait Gallery. Curious to learn of his ancestors, Jonathan wandered into the portrait gallery. Flickering candlelight revealed the painted visages of generations of Hollingsworths, lords, ladies, scholars, and soldiers, each bearing the same cold eyes. One portrait, more recent than the others, caught Jonathan's attention, a woman of striking beauty, clad in mourning black, her gaze both defiant and despairing. The plaque read, Eliza Hollingsworth, 1781–1810. Jonathan shivered. Eliza must be the E.H. from the letter. What had befallen her? As he studied the painting, a sudden draught extinguished the candles, plunging the gallery into darkness. When Jonathan relit them, he thought, though he could not be certain, that Eliza's painted expression had changed, her lips twisting into a knowing, mournful smirk. Chapter 3. The Whispering Halls. The first night, Jonathan lay awake, disturbed by whispers that seemed to travel through the walls. At times they were soft, almost comforting, at others, sharp and accusing. Unable to sleep, he wandered the corridors by lamplight. In the east wing, a part of the house the servants later warned him to avoid, Jonathan discovered a locked door, its frame scarred by deep gouges, as though something had once tried to claw its way out. Pressed against the door, Jonathan heard what sounded like weeping, the sobs of a woman. But when he called out, silence returned. By dawn, he was no closer to answers, only more questions. Chapter 4. The Diary of Eliza. In the old nursery, beneath a loose floorboard, Jonathan discovered a diary bound in cracked leather. Its pages, yellowed with age, bore Eliza Hollingsworth's delicate script. She wrote of her husband, Edmund, a man of dark brilliance and unholy ambition. Edmund, driven by fear of mortality, had delved into forbidden arts, searching for a way to extend his life and protect his bloodline. Greater than July 17, 1809. He keeps strange company now, men and women with hollow eyes who speak of ancient rites. At night, the house trembles with chanting. I fear what he has brought upon us. Greater than October 3, 1809. I am with child. Edmund claims our child will be the key, the vessel through which our family shall conquer death itself. God have mercy on us. Greater than January 12, 1810. The birth came too soon. The child, it lived but a moment, then its cries ceased. Edmund wept, then raged. I fear he has buried the child not in consecrated ground but in the crypt below Thornfield. Greater than March 4, 1810. I hear the child's cries at night. They echo in the walls, or perhaps in my mind. Edmund no longer sleeps, nor do I. The final entry, dated only weeks later, ended abruptly. Greater than he comes for me now, to complete what he began. Chapter 5. The Crypt Below. Compelled by horror and pity, Jonathan resolved to find the crypt. Beneath the chapel ruins behind the house, he discovered moss-covered steps descending into darkness. By candlelight, he beheld crumbling stone sarcophagi bearing the family crest. At the far end of the vault lay a smaller coffin, unmarked save for the initials, E.H. Yet Jonathan's attention was drawn to a hidden recess behind an iron grate. Inside, wrapped in rotting cloth, lay the remains of an infant, its tiny bones discolored by damp earth. As Jonathan reached out, a voice echoed around him, soft and desperate, the voice of a woman. Greater than do not disturb him, he sleeps. Startled, Jonathan fled, nearly dropping his candle. The crypt seemed to breathe around him, the air heavy with centuries of sorrow and sin. Chapter 6. The Return of the Past. Jonathan returned to the manor, shaken. That night, he dreamed of Eliza, standing at the foot of his bed, her face pale as moonlight. Greater than, he is not gone, Jonathan, she whispered. He waits, and you, as his blood, may yet awaken him. Jonathan awoke in terror. On the floor beside his bed lay a single withered rose, black with age. Chapter 7. The Confession of Edmund Hollingsworth. Among the scrolls in the library, Jonathan found a brittle, unsigned manuscript, Edmund Hollingsworth's final confession. Edmund wrote of his terror of death and the ancient cult known as the Order of the Veil, whose rites promised the eternal preservation of bloodlines. To secure the ritual's power, a child of Hollingsworth blood had to be sacrificed, its spirit bound to the family's ancestral home. Edmund's madness drove him to perform the ritual upon his own child. But the rite failed. The child's body died, but its spirit lingered, trapped between worlds, its cries haunting Thornfield ever since. Greater than, I have damned us all, Edmund wrote. And yet, the blood must continue. For if it does not, the horror I have unleashed shall consume us. Chapter 8. The Gathering Storm. A week later, the weather turned savage. Thunder rattled Thornfield's walls, waves battered the cliffs below. Jonathan, plagued by visions of the weeping child, wandered the halls, calling its name though he did not know it. Shadows seemed to move in the corners of his sight, the portraits of his ancestors appeared to follow him with their eyes. Late one night, lightning revealed a figure standing in the garden, a man in antiquated dress, features resembling Jonathan's own. When Jonathan called out, the figure vanished into the rain. Chapter 9. The Truth Revealed. In the library, Jonathan confronted the butler, old Mr. Hawthorne, who had served the family for decades. Trembling, Hawthorne confessed, Greater than, Master Jonathan, you were never meant to come here. Your father fled this place to spare you. The curse requires a living heir to renew the bond, or the trapped soul shall awaken and bring ruin. Thornfield has waited, for you. Jonathan realized with horror that by returning, he had indeed awakened the sleeping curse. Chapter 10. The Night of Reckoning. That night, the house trembled. Whispers rose to a fevered chant, unseen forces battered doors and shattered windows. In the portrait gallery, the paintings of his ancestors wept black tears. Jonathan fled to the crypt. There, by candlelight, the ghost of Eliza appeared before him, her face twisted in grief. Greater than, free him, she pleaded. Free us all. Jonathan knelt by the child's remains, whispering words of forgiveness. As he did, the air grew still. The cries faded, replaced by a profound, aching silence. Chapter 11. The Price. But the silence did not last. The crypt walls cracked, the ground trembled. A monstrous shadow, formless and shifting, rose from the darkness, Edmund's corrupted spirit, woken at last. Greater than, blood must be repaid, Jonathan, the voice thundered. You are mine. Jonathan felt himself being drawn into the darkness. But Eliza's spirit intervened, her ghostly form shining with sorrowful resolve. Greater than, no more, Edmund, she whispered. I will not let you damn him, too. With a final, anguished cry, Eliza and the shadow vanished, the crypt collapsing into rubble around Jonathan. Chapter 12. The Aftermath. Jonathan awoke at dawn among the ruins of the crypt, bruised but alive. Thornfield Hall, once oppressive and heavy with dread, felt curiously empty, its curse seemingly lifted. He ordered the remains of the child reburied in consecrated ground. The portrait of Eliza in the gallery faded, her sorrowful expression replaced by peace. Yet Jonathan knew some horrors could never be undone, only buried. Epilogue. The Legacy. Years later, in distant London, Jonathan recorded the full account of what had transpired, sealing it in the family manuscript. Greater than, let it be known, he wrote, that our greatest curse was not the restless dead, but the sins of the living. May no Hollingsworth ever again walk the path Edmund chose. Thornfield Hall stood abandoned ever after, a silent monument to pride, madness, and loss. And though the house no longer whispered at night, Villagers still claimed that when storms gathered over the cliffs, the faint cry of a child could sometimes be heard, borne on the wind. The end.